Good evening and welcome to the regular town council meeting for July 14th, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Moving on to adoption of the minutes. I look for a motion from the council to adopt the meeting minutes from June 2nd and June 16th, 2026.
Motion we adopt the meeting minutes for June 2nd and June 16th, 2026.
Seconded. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments regarding meeting minutes from those two dates? Hearing none, it says we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the meeting minutes from June 2nd and June 16th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the meeting minutes have passed. Moving on to presentations. Tonight we do have Amanda Collmore here on a new ordinance request for food sovereignty. Amanda, thank you.
Hi, thank you for seeing me today. So back in 2017, the state legislature, first for the record, my name is Amanda Collmore. I am a resident of Pittsfield. I'm here in my status and role as a tax-paying resident of the town and not in my state representative role. Though the knowledge I have in that role has assisted me with creating this presentation for you. So in 2017, the state of Maine legislature adopted the Food Sovereignty Act. And what that allowed is for towns and municipalities to be able to adopt food sovereignty ordinances so that you can have farm stands, bake sales, the firemen's pizza dough thing, church dinners, etc. And over the years, we have adopted additional laws to strengthen the Food Sovereignty Act. And in addition, we passed, the state of Maine, the voters of Maine passed the constitutional right to food. And since then, we have adopted additional strengthening things to ensure that every person in the state of Maine has the right to produce, harvest, and consume whatever food they feel is best for their health and their family. What was not known as well I was not in the legislature at the time, when the legislature adopted food sovereignty, was that it's an opt-in ordinance thing instead of an opt-out. And what we found, there was an incident where the Department of Agriculture and Conservation, Forestry and Conservation has gone after a couple of food farm stands in Pittsfield, Troy, Clinton, and other surrounding towns. Because we have not adopted food sovereignty, they were told they had to shut down and are not allowed to accept money for their things. So why we should consider adopting food sovereignty here? Well, first of all, there are 47 towns in the state of Maine who have already adopted this. The ordinance that I have with is based on an ordinance that was passed in, I want to say 47 towns. With the exception of the two underlined areas that I have in there, which have been underlined to show that they vary, because the ordinances that were passed were not passed, they were passed prior to the constitutional right to food. And so what I have adopted in here just as additional language is to ensure that that is aligned in the ordinance as well, so you don't have to change it later. So what this will also do by adopting this ordinance is it will preserve our local control over direct producer to consumer food transactions. It supports our small farms and our homesteaders in our town and ensures that people who want to can go to those homesteaders and purchase things like sourdough bread. The only thing that you can legally sell at a farm stand right now, the only thing in law that is exempt from requiring a license is eggs. Everything else requires some type of license, even produce is required to have a license. You cannot sell produce at a farm stand unless you are a registered and licensed farm. So if I produced too much zucchini in my garden, which happens, I would not be able to put it out for money because I am not a farm. And the same goes with anything that's baked in a kitchen. You have to have one of the many different licensing options that are available. So if you're somebody trying to eat whole foods and not things that contain margarine and oil-based products, you want to go to these places who fall under the food sovereignty part of law. Because little did I know until we started really diving into this, you're not allowed to use real butter in baked goods if you are a licensed kitchen. So if you go to these farm stands that are licensed to do baked goods and they say they have buttercream frosting, it is not real butter, it is an oil-based product. Because that is not allowed. So in this, just basically, I'll walk through the sections really quick for you. Section 1 just establishes the name and makes it so the ordinance is easy to be referenced, but has no regulatory effect. Section 2 is the purpose as to why the ordinance will exist. It provides the legislative intent. It gives the courts and any future officials context if interpretation is ever needed. It provides the key points of we want local food to contribute to the community resilience. We support family farms. We encourage self-reliance and recognize informed consumer choice is a big thing. And also this promotes the local decision making that we have. So this basically, it tells you why we're adopting it. And then section 3, this is telling you the reason that we are, what the ordinance is seeking to do. It's preserving our local food production, protecting direct consumer, producer to consumer transactions. It's encouraging food security, preserving our family farms, and strengthening the rural communities, plus our traditional pathways for food. And then section 4 is the definition section. This is a way to make it clear what we mean by producer to consumer, what a producer is, what a processor is, a patron, local food, what we mean by that, what community social events are. I think something that I learned that I took away big and why I am here and promoting this the most is it is illegal for any entity to hold a bake sale if they do not have a licensed kitchen. So when the Girl Scouts are out there, the Boy Scouts are out there, anything like that, the state could decide to come in and shut all of that down. Also, because we allow it in town at Danforth's, the lemonade stand on the corner of Hathorne Park, the town is liable if somebody were to get harmed from that. The food sovereignty allows for those things to happen with no liability on the town, because we are saying it is you, the consumer, and you, the producer, who are entering into this contract by doing that. The other thing is the fire department is not certified to serve doughboys out of that trailer. And that really could harm us. Food sovereignty ordinance would ensure that that does not happen because we want them to continue to do their doughboys. Although I'd like them to figure out how to make it gluten-free, I will not be able to get that. Section 5 is the authority. So basically, these are the sources from statute and the Constitution of Maine and the United States Constitution that tell us why and how we are allowed to adopt this and why we have the authority to do so. And I've cited all of those different locations. You'll see an underlined section in here. That's where I am referencing the constitutional right to food. Just so it adds that additional authority as to why we're able to do it. Section 6 is the statements of our law. This is where we are saying we have the right to self-government. We have municipal home rule as established by the Maine Constitution and additional laws surrounding that. We have local decision-making, local authority where all state laws allow, which this one does. We also are recognizing we have a right to reduce our food, sell our food, consume our food through these direct producer to consumer transactions. This is really important. The exemption from licensure is really to protect the town, saying you don't have to go and inspect these places. And we are not saying that as doing food sovereignty, the town is going to take on that liability. But it doesn't eliminate the state food laws. They are still required to follow the laws that come around with having safe handling of food and stuff like that. They just are not going through the process that's very, very expensive to get licensed. And this is also very important, the meat and poultry part. Federal law, USDA inspection requirements remain in place. We cannot take those away, and we do not want to take those away. So this does not override any federal or dairy meat inspections that are required by the federal government. And then the liability portion, which allows the private agreements. We're not inspecting the food, we're not certifying the food, where the town assumes no responsibility, and these are private transactions. Section 7 is the civil enforcement section. Basically, this allows residents to protect their rights that are established by the ordinance. And basically, the lay term for that is DACF cannot enter their property unless they're going in there to purchase food out of their stand. And they can't go in and tell them they have to shut down. DHHS can go in there because of the food safety laws that still exist that this does not preempt, but the Department of Agriculture and Conservation and Forestry won't be able to go up to a stand that's been selling sourdough for 2 years and tell them they can no longer sell sourdough. Which, by the way, they just told them they couldn't sell it. It wasn't that they had broken any rules, except that the town didn't have food sovereignty. Very simply, the section 8, the effect is that when we adopt this, it becomes immediately effective. So town people don't have to wait too long to reopen their farm stands, especially since we're in harvest season. I think that's really important coming up. Section 9 is basically if one section of this ordinance were to be struck down by the courts, the other sections are still there. And it would remain in effect that way. It's common legal language that's put into these kind of ordinances. And every ordinance I've reviewed has this statement in it. And then section 10 is the repealer. So if we have any areas in ordinance that conflict with this ordinance, it would immediately repeal those, which is a very important cost saving thing to have in there as a line. Section 11 is our human rights section, and this just clarifies that nothing in the ordinance will override constitutional rights and nothing authorizes unlawful conduct, which goes back to food safety laws. And also ensures that you are not allowed to poach on somebody's land to get your food. That's still illegal. And then section 12 is again, talking about the mutual recognition between the municipality and cooperation with other municipalities who have adopted these ordinances. So for example, Burnham has a food sovereignty ordinance. It's very successful for their town. They have a food sovereign farmers market that they do I think it's every week, if I remember correctly. This would allow us in Pittsfield to go also sell in their farmers market, or they could come and sell in ours for our farmers market. So it's a reciprocity statement. And then I go into some potential amendments. So as I was talking to people about this ordinance, there were some concerns about consumer awareness. So we could, but we don't have to, because the law is clear on its consumer choice, and then they accept all of the liability along with that. But if we wanted to, we could say, if you choose to operate as a food sovereign farm stand, or bake sale, or church dinner, or whatever it is that's allowed under the ordinance, you just need to have a sign or something that states, I'm operating under food sovereign part, which makes it clear the town is not liable. And then I added in another potential amendment to really clarify municipal liability clarification, if you feel that the other section is not as strong as you might want it to be, to ensure that we are not liable for anything. Though if you speak with the lawyers, that other section should work fine. This is just some additional language if you're concerned about that. And that's. Oh, and what I do want to ensure that you know, what this ordinance does not do. It does not regulate grocery stores. It does not regulate restaurants. It does not create a municipal food inspection department. It doesn't require the town to inspect licensed or certified food. It does not prevent consumers from choosing state inspected products. It does not tell anyone where they have to buy their food. It just preserves the ability for informed adults to voluntarily engage in direct producer to consumer food transactions where Maine law allows. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this. I've spent hours in the law library researching this and all of the laws attached to it.
When was the Article 125 of the the Constitution of the State of Maine? When was that passed?
It was passed in 2023.
2023. Have there been any court cases about that?
The only court case that is, there's two currently pending. One is that the state has to allow Sunday hunting because of the constitutional right to food. So that's one that's currently pending in the courts. We expect it will not pass the muster because the way constitutional right to food is written is that it doesn't negate those laws. But it's an interesting one to watch. And then the second one that's pending is on the other side of the legalization world. They're saying that we have to legalize bank loans to hemp producers and understand that hemp parts are used as food and therefore they should be fully legal and allowed to operate as a licensed farm. Those are the only two that are pending. We expect both will not work.
So I guess my specific question in a kind of steel manning against this. If I'm a multi-unit property owner and I'm renting.
Mhm.
Can people use this? Against me as a landlord to say, hey, I can use your quarter acre of grass over here that I'm renting to produce my own food, even if I'm the property owner, I don't want you to.
It does not negate property owner rights, the constitutional right to food, and nor does the ordinance.
I know that's what it says, but there's been no court cases to create precedent.
No, and I don't think we've ever had an issue with that. I have not heard of any issues of that happening.
Okay.
You are the property owner, you are the landlord, and you have told them, hopefully, very well in your agreements what they can and cannot do with your land, and
So there's no-
court law does not stop working.
And then the only other question I had was on the liability
Mhm.
protection, the release from liability. It seems pretty exhaustive, like it covers all liability, but if I'm selling gluten-free bread, but it's actually not gluten-free bread, I should be able to be held accountable for fraud. I'm not released from that type of liability.
So you're talking about labeling.
Yes.
So.
Or any type of fraud, misconduct, negligence,
So the food labeling thing is a totally different section of law that this doesn't even do anything with. We do not require in the state of Maine, baked goods that are sold in this capacity, same thing with bake sales, to be fully labeled with their ingredients.
No, I guess
But if you are saying, I'm selling you something that has no peanuts.
Yes.
And you made it with peanuts, that's still against the law.
Okay. And so this liability waiver does not cover fraud or negligence.
No, the liability waiver is specifically for the town, not for.
Oh, excuse me, okay.
It ensures that the town is not responsible if somebody were to bake something that's like an oatmeal cookie and it had peanuts and somebody has an allergic reaction, that is not the town's fault.
Okay, producers and processors of local food management to private agreements with patrons to waive any liability for the consumption of local food. It
Yeah.
sounds like patrons are waiving their liability.
They could enter into a contract with them. That's what that portion, this is only a proposed amendment.
Okay,
They could choose to do that. So where that is relevant is when you have farm shares.
I would think, I'm on board, I like this, now with the man, I'm all for people being free to do whatever they pretty much want,
Yeah.
they're not hurting anybody, and
Exactly.
that's the one call that would just be some edit to say this liability waiver is explicitly not covering fraud, misconduct, or negligence of the seller. That's all.
Yeah, and
I know that seems like it's implied, but I could see it.
yeah, and if I can speak again with the law library about where that falls in statute to ensure that that's covered, because we would wanna reference that part
That's
specifically.
a question. For our attorney, we'd have to have. him
I will
this whole
tell you
thing
that this ordinance, again, has been adopted by over 32 towns, and it has not resulted in any.
Yeah, it might go
Harm
for
to
the next
any-
100 years and never have a problem,
Yeah.
you never know.
Those are good questions, though.
Yeah, oh no,
Curious,
great
so.
questions, you know.
So just remind us, what's the risk of not moving forward?
All of our farm stands that do not have farm licenses or cottage kitchen licenses or food producer license, et cetera, will not be able to sell. We will have to pay out of the budget to ensure that our, fire truck group is fully licensed and serve safe certified to sell their, wonderful doughboys that everybody loves. And, we would have to ensure that any church supper, the Elks is a different situation because they do have a serve safe certification. I do not know if the Masons does, but if they don't, they would not be able to do anything. That lemonade stand on the corner of Hathaway Park will have to be shut down.
You mentioned the bake sales too.
The bake sales up at Danforth, would have to be fully licensed in order to operate.
So our food trucks,
So it excludes meat, you said, right? So like barbecue trucks are not a part of this.
No, and they have to have a different kind of license anyway. Food trucks are considered restaurants under law. And this
Okay.
does not cover restaurants.
right,
Okay,
and you
They're a
said,
special division of restaurant, but yes.
Gotcha.
and you said if these folks are, making home goods. That if they sold to say Danforth or A. Robinson, that's different too,
Correct,
Because
so if
then they need the labeling, then
you
they
have
need
to
the
do the
certified
labeling, you
kitchen.
have to
and
have, yeah, all of that. So I could not bake gluten-free chocolate chip cookies and sell it to Danforth unless I am a certified with the state producer.
Right,
okay.
right, this is direct consumer,
Direct
or,
consumer.
producer to consumer.
Correct, period.
Has there been
No.
any issues? Has anyone heard of something getting shut down in Pittsfield?
Well,
Yeah.
yours is a sourdough.
Yeah,
No, I
it's-
haven't heard anything, but what are you talking about?
Well, there is a very public thing happening right now in
Yeah,
Clinton.
pizza thing, right?
And in Pittsfield, we
Sorry.
have, the pizza's a little bit separate because we
Okay.
cannot control the Amish. And we cannot license and force the Amish to
Okay.
do any of that. They have a lot of exemptions in law.
But weren't they doing something in somebody else's kitchen or something like that?
There's
Or,
different situations and circumstances that have come up that could potentially. It is my understanding that that particular instance should never have been an issue because they have a license that was given.
Sure.
Whether or not it was
No, that's
supposed to be,
yeah.
doesn't matter, but yes, in Pittsfield, we have 3 farms that have shut down to ensure, farmer stands. Who have shut down to ensure that they do not get a visit from DACF because they have been very active in the area.
Wouldn't remind you.
I have had people reach out to me and say, please get this
Nice.
going.
yeah. But
What was DACF again? I'm sorry.
Sorry, Department of Agriculture, Conservation and
I
Forestry.
know she said it, but there was a lot of
Right.
big words real quick and I
Yeah.
catch it all. So this scenario, so I make sourdough, No, I don't, but
I'm like, no, you don't.
no, I do not. But if I make sourdough bread and you have a food stand and I wanna sell that, but it's at your food
You
stand,
cannot do that.
so you have to produce
I have
it.
to produce it and sell it on mine. The exemption
If I
and
gave
what
it to
we
you,
have
you
written,
couldn't sell
what we have written in here is when you, in the same scenario, you make the sourdough and you have a daughter who's selling stuff in Girl Scouts
Yeah,
bake sale. That we have written in here as a community event,
Mhm.
and the community event would allow for that to happen. But me selling it at my house and my farm stand,
Mhm.
that is not a community event. And that the department could come in and say something about,
Okay,
but we could do a
Let's-
farmer's market, again, community
Sure, sure.
event.
but if I have say I have a farm stand and the sourdough I made was made in a certified kitchen,
That,
then you could resell the sourdough.
no. Not at my farm stand.
has to be at your
It
own,
has to be at your own.
Interesting.
but you, so,
Because then I would essentially be buying that product for you to sell for you, and you did it. So licensing is a whole separate thing and world. We do not want to interact with food sovereignty because we will kill our food sovereignty laws.
So if somebody does want to do that, they need to.
They need to have.
There's some other. It's still, you can do it, but it's gonna
Yeah.
be
It has to be under their
Under
license.
different-
like, if I bake cookies
different laws.
and wanna sell them at his farm stand, how do you do that?
You go to his house.
Yeah.
And you bake your cookies in his kitchen, and then you can do it.
You said we're okay if like the four of us make brownies and his daughter sells them at Danforth's for the school team.
Because we have said that that is a community event.
Okay.
And so that would be allowed.
Okay, got it,
Where is this coming from? I'm curious.
yeah.
So
Right.
I highly recommend Googling Harrington Homestead, which has received national attention now because the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry went in and told them they had to shut down. This is in Clinton. They are also defending their food sovereignty ordinance tonight. They received 200 signatures in the town of Clinton to force a special town meeting because they are so mad that their farm stands are getting shut down in Clinton that they are actually paying for a special town meeting to adopt this ordinance.
I mean, I grew up going to potlucks and homesteads and buying things at the corner, like, what changed? Is it just, well, I don't understand.
Risk, I don't know.
Administration changes.
Overreach.
Okay.
Every time you have an administration change, so things like potlucks and Girl Scout cookie sales and not their box sales, that's a different thing, but if they made a bake sale or something, the cheerleaders are doing, the soccer team does a bake sale every year out at Chimbrow as part of their car wash. Those have traditionally been ignored. The law does not actually allow them to be ignored, and now what we are seeing is a department that is going out and changing what has been traditionally held in the state of Maine. So towns are more, a lot of towns right now are talking about this very thing because of what happened to the Harringtons.
Hmm.
They happen to be on a very main road.
Let me go shut down for milk and sourdough bread.
Except the milk they didn't get shut down for, that was retracted because the goat milk was not for human consumption, so they couldn't be shut down for that.
Let me throw out one more scenario, just out of curiosity.
Yes.
So somebody decides to completely redo the garage, turn it into a big kitchen.
Mhm.
And they basically convert that whole space into retail food from their house to sell. So they're making it in their space and they basically set up a retail shop from their house. If they do that, but that activity conflicts with the land use ordinance, because the land use ordinance might say, we don't allow retail activities in this little neighborhood. You know, it's only a tiny, quarter acre lot, there's no parking, whatever, or the ordinance says, we don't allow home-based businesses for whatever reason, or that particular type of thing. How does that resolve? Is this gonna exempt the land use regulation, or is there still a land use aspect that we can say? This is great, but we have a land use ordinance issue in this particular location for this scale of activity.
Yeah, so it does not negate any other places of law for land ordinance, and in that instance, it's becoming a business and therefore they don't fall under food sovereignty anymore.
Okay, then,
So if you're turning it into a business, you are considered a commercial thing. Food sovereignty, like I said, does not protect commercial activities.
okay.
So that would be commercial. This doesn't stop any of those land use ordinances. They can't. If we in the town of Pittsfield have an ordinance that requires a business license, still have to follow that if they're doing it as a business. If they're doing it as a farm stand, that's a different situation because you're not standing out there grabbing money from the people while they select the piece of fudge they want. That's a different. I think it's a good scenario to bring up, but that would not
I was
be
just
negated.
curious.
No, yeah. Also, if we have an ordinance that says you can't do a business from home, I might wanna look at that one too. Because a lot of people do
So
business
I
from
feel
home.
like you have Pittsfield's best interest in mind all the time. Anything concern you about this?
No, if we were the very first town to ever adopt it, I might be a little more concerned. I can. Very publicly, I have voted in favor of every food sovereign bill and the constitutional right to food that's come before the legislature. Because I think it's our right as humans to consume and produce and harvest whatever we want, as long as we're not breaking other relevant laws. I only provided the additional potential amendments because I had heard some concerns from people about the transparency to the consumer, but in the end, when you're talking about that, license doesn't mean food is safe.
Right.
Right now, we probably don't wanna be eating lettuce, for example. I have never washed the outside of a banana before, but we're doing it because of the thing going on. And these are coming from licensed producers, so consumers always make risk decisions when it comes to food. And this is just protecting our right to get it from someplace other than a grocery store. Or Applebee's.
Awesome.
Got it.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Anybody on council? I think we're.
This is very thorough, thank you.
Yeah, that
There's
was very educational.
Yeah.
I would just ask, is this something that you would consider pulling into your agenda? Or do I need to start the petition process?
No, I mean, I think the town attorney needs to review it all, and decide, obviously he needs to review it all and then. If he's good with it, I'm on the ordinance committee, I think you are. If the town attorney says, yes, this is great, I don't think me and Peter are gonna rule him, so. I don't see why it wouldn't come to the council and be on an agenda in the very near future.
Yeah, we could,
And if you have specific. I mean, you explain, my concern was any of the added burden that the
Yeah.
town would take on of regulating and all
Which we
that,
do not
so,
want.
that's right, yeah. Added cost to the town is not what we're going for, so that was my concern and you answered all those concerns.
we could try to have an opinion, I've already like suggested revisions for the next agenda, which would be
Yeah.
August 4th.
August
And then
4th.
if we got it to a point where it looks good to everybody, then we could move it forward for a first reading and then a second reading. I mean,
All right, it's gotta go through the whole,
Yeah.
public hearing things,
we want to have kind of a finalized document that everybody's comfortable with and then
right,
go through the two hearings.
we'll go as fast as,
As
governments
the
go.
process allows. I'm all too familiar.
Thank
with
you for
that.
being able to answer all the questions, you made it easy for us.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. All right, moving on, there are no public hearings tonight, Jack, you got a town manager's report?
I do, started out small and then it just it getting a little longer and a little longer. It never happened. I could talk fast though. Last week, at the end of last week, we had an issue with our, one of our well pumps. We have two wells. One of our pumps failed. And so we did haul water through the weekend to keep our percentage of reserve high enough within our license. And then we were able to pull the pump and put a temporary pump in there on Monday. And we are looking at replacing that original pump. But everything's working fine now, but it's a dry time of year to have that happen, so we got through that okay. Everybody's aware that the rail has closed a couple of roads in town. Industrial Park Road closed this morning, I found that out this morning. And, they're expecting to be able to reopen Industrial Park Road Friday morning. They hope to finish work by like midday on Thursday, but then they have to pave and they have to let the same pavement set, so hopefully Friday morning that'll be open, and the Webb Road. They're hoping to get that open either late tomorrow night or first thing Thursday morning. That's a little bit nearer to be done. And then I did ask about Main Street, because they do have to close Main Street, but they're talking about being at least 2 weeks away and probably more, probably into August. So I'm gonna do my best to get some lead time on when that's gonna
We put some
close.
notices out
Yeah,
Yeah.
if
if we can.
if I can.
Yeah.
So are they aware of the community events going on? July 24th isn't too, I mean, you're a little off from that,
We have a
but
parade coming up.
yeah, we have a parade going through Main
Yeah,
Street. We also have,
They probably don't work on Saturday though.
I was assured
well,
that
it's closed, it's closed.
I'm not sure.
there's nothing realistic in July for Main Street, to affect Main Street.
Okay.
So,
And you know, Jack, that they've coned it off down here, and ribboned it off and.
Yeah.
Equipment in.
yeah, because they have to, they don't need to close the road, but they need to work around the track. And they wanna keep people from parking too close to their work zone, because debris could, damage a vehicle if somebody's parking in the wrong spot, so I told them to kind of restrict whatever they thought they needed to keep vehicles out of the zone. But yeah, it's not gonna close the road tomorrow.
Okay.
You saw any activity around Pinnacle this week? The main DEP did a mock exercise at the boat launch to train on containing an oil spill. Not necessarily there, but wherever it might be, into mock a cleanup exercise. So we'll hear from some people that saw some things going on there. But I assume that went okay. I wanted to mention one of the grants we're trying to get utilized and closed out this year. Back in 2024, we got a housing opportunities grant, which is basically a grant to assess our housing inventory and look at what we have and what the community could use more of. And it would be the type of study that a developer could use to justify their investment, right? So if we said that there's, that we have a lot of this type of housing, but not as much as we need for maybe, multi-unit or, or whatever. And then we had a developer that wanted to go to a bank and try to get loans to invest in, in developing some of that housing. This would be a tool for, them to justify their kind of their business approach. So we got that grant, it expires at the end of the year, and what's timely about that is that the housing inventory data is directly data that's gonna go into the comp plan. So what I did is I reached out to KV Cog to try to fast track this housing study. And they would basically subcontract that work out for this housing study and be able to use a chunk of this data that's gonna come out of this grant and basically get into our comp plan, which I think is gonna save some time and some work on the comp plan end of things, because they're gonna roll right up into that in 2027. So that's something that we're on track to get under contract through KV Cog and get that information collected, the study completed, and that grant closed out before the end of the year. And then there's actually a second round of housing opportunity that we got in the spring that's gonna help us update our land use ordinance for the most recent changes that the legislature made in housing statutes in the last session. And then, we'll get started with that, but we definitely under a clock for the 2024 one. I was able to confirm today that the last piece of the Peltomo Power Line project got completed. We had the trees trimmed. We have the guy wire fixed. There's only one on that whole line. Power line was only one guy up wire that needed to be fixed, which was done today. And I think you probably saw on the warrant, there was the CMP's federal fee they had to charge us for accepting that back. We processed that, so I have a call into them to just confirm whatever last documentation we have to execute to get this transferred over. But that'll be, a liability, off the town. And the town will no longer be responsible for repairing and maintaining that power line that goes out to our, water system pump station, so. That's on track. We are getting ready in August for the Honeywell sewer project, to, get started. The contractor's looking at, August 3rd through the next 30 to 45 days to be able to complete Honeywell. And they're looking to, detour, Honeywell traffic across, Detroit Avenue, during that time, so. That's getting put into place. And last but not least, it was last week that we had interviews for the chief of police position. And we're currently moving forward with a candidate, and I'm hopeful that at our next meeting, I'll be able to bring a candidate to the council for appointment, so that seems to be on track. So.
Excellent. Yep. Thank you, Jack. Moving on, department head reports are in the council packet, and there are some on your desk tonight. So we could review those. Moving on to new business. Nicole, can you please read resolution 2648?
Resolved that the town council approve the issuance of a parade permit to Bijou Theater and Richmond Center for 5K fundraiser and waive the permit fees.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2648.
Second.
Moved and seconded. It's pretty self-explanatory, but is there anything you need to add to this, Jack?
No, I think they communicated with the police department and informed them of what the route would be, so that they could be.
Yep, and those are on your desk.
Yep.
Basically just from was it Hathorne Park up around the Pinnacle through Birchwood. Okay, oh yeah, hey, the theater,
Where was
that
it?
makes sense. You start in the theater and you go up. Yep, up around the Pinnacle.
Everyone, I guess.
Is it like walk run? Yep. So family friendly, we're family.
Uh,
Free market.
yeah, that's great. Is there any,
Is there a date for that yet?
October 24th.
Approved for. Not that I'm gonna run that.
Good that it'll be a
You
little
don't have to,
cooler.
you can walk.
Like, we could
That
walk.
would be my speed
Yeah,
right
that'd be
there.
yeah,
my, that'd be my jam too, I'll do that.
are there any questions? Anything you need to add? You're good? All set? Any questions from the council? You think we're all set? All those in favor of resolution 2648, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2648 passes. Moving on to resolution. Thank you guys so much. If you wanna leave, you are welcome to, but you are welcome to stay as well. I know it's very exciting stuff. Yeah,
We don't blame you.
yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yep.
Moving on to resolution 2649, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approve the purchase of the 2023 Hitachi SW with bucket forks and coupler and equipment lease for financing the purchase through Androscoggin Savings Bank.
For a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2649.
Second?
Moved and seconded, Jack,
This is.
the one we talked about.
Yeah, this is for that loader. And the, that someone's had it, that we had already discussed, and, we had kind of lumped the budget together with, between the loader and the single axle, but we're ready to act on the loader and, write that lease up and, get that closed. We actually, purchased and received the loader last week when we got into the new fiscal year. Snowwoods have been hanging on to that since, I think, March, and helped us out with that. So this is the financing piece of it.
Okay. So it'll be a total of $79,332. over the next 5 years. Yeah. All right, any other questions from the audience or the council regarding resolution 2649? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2649, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2649 passes. Moving on to resolution 2650, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approve the purchase of 2 single axle plow trucks with combined price not to exceed $155,000.
For a motion from the council,
Make motion to adopt resolution 2650.
moved and seconded, so speaking to Jack, this is no longer. An option that we wanna pursue because one of the vehicles is not one that we want.
Yeah, we got more information today about both of the vehicles actually, and one of them is not one that we would wanna move ahead with. The other one appears to be one that we do wanna move ahead with.
Glad you figured that out.
Yeah.
I had a
I think
plan.
they're both in really, really good shape. But we've had reservations about one of the trucks that will mileage 30,000 miles, but it's got a max force motor in it, which we've had real problems with, or not just us, the state. A lot of people had some real problems with that motor. I just would hate to get something and have it be all pretty and then do 8,000 miles, when every time we have to pop a motor and say, well, we kind of knew this going again.
Right.
You're taking a chance. There are some good ones out there, don't get me wrong, but I'm not for old guys.
So. This would be a no,
Need to make a motion to amend or just?
just no action
No action.
required. Do we have to even vote on no action? Or we just go to the next thing?
You can just move on to the next thing because it'd be.
Okay, we will, take no action on resolution 2650. And we will move on to resolution 2651, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council authorize the town manager and public works foreman to issue a request for proposals for the demolition of 231 Somerset Avenue.
For a motion from the council,
Motion to adopt resolution 2651.
Second.
moved and seconded, and
So after the last meeting, I issued a request for proposals and I included, I think, almost everybody that had responded to the last one. And there may have been a few new vendors that I included. So there was a lot of the word was out there, but we did not get a single bid. And I think perhaps part of the reason for not getting a bid is that I did include a desired completion date by the end of August, which could have just caught everybody at a busy time of year where they couldn't drop what they were doing to get something done by August. So basically I rewrote the RFP, which is in front of you, and I kicked that timeline way out to the end of the calendar year. So if somebody would be willing to come look at it, it's it's a lot more involved project than the last two that we did. I did structure this RFP so that the contractor is gonna be responsible for the whole demolition and removal. So they'd be arranging for the containers, they would be paying for the disposal of the material, completely, whereas the last ones, we supplied the can and we hauled it off and we took care of that aspect of it. This one, being more involved, I asked the contractor to bid that whole thing. So my hope is that with a longer time and, and maybe reaching out to some of the vendors, we could create some interest in this project for maybe later in the fall, early winter typically.
And one of the things, I actually had a contractor contacted Dick, that siding on the outside of that house is asbestos.
Yes, I do.
I think that's why, I think that concerned the one that was going to bid.
I'm sure it concerns a few people.
Yeah, so it's the non-fiber kind, it's hard and rigid, but it's still, it's one of those things that they're probably gonna have to have somebody certified to build it. To come over and do that.
Yeah,
Sure. All right, any questions from the council? Since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2651, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2651 passes. Moving on to resolution 2652, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council authorize the town manager and public works foreman to issue the request for proposals for the purchase of winter sand.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2652.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Jack, you want to speak on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I think, issuing a bid, proposal for winter sand is something we had done in the past. I don't know if we've done it over the most recent years, but we did have a bid spec for it. And, we both agreed that it would be a good year to, issue an RFP. It's early enough, and see what comes in for, opportunities for where we can buy winter sand. Not that we've been unhappy with, the winter sand, that we've been getting, but there's just a chance to see if there's others out there that wants to, put a number forward.
Okay, I'm rating this, it looks like we probably last bid it in 2019 to 2020.
Probably.
So there's a couple dates to just say for the 2019
Yeah,
to
I'll
2020.
update that before I send it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
There's
it might
just a
have
couple
been-
dates.
Might have
right
been the last time you did it.
I'm sure it was, or,
Yeah, it was, and that's, they just give us, like I said,
yeah,
for each year for 5 years, because we knew that specs here.
right,
Last 5 years from now, it's just.
Yeah.
And so.
certainly good to bid out
It's
this point, so. All right, any questions from the council regarding resolution 2652? Hearing none, and since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2652, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2652 passes. Moving on to resolution 2653, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approve abatements for real estate accounts 81 and 236. Tax years 2004 and 2005 as recommended by the town assessor.
2024 and 25.
Did I say that wrong?
I think you said 2004 and 2000,
24, yeah, 24.
but that's, you're good.
2024, 2023.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2653.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Jack, just for,
So this is, the Waverly Dam and the Pioneer Dam. Those are owned by the town, and in the past, we've leased those to a private company to run the power operations there. The lease that we had with in effect for that ran through 2013, I believe. And the tax assessments that we've been doing on this property to that company were on the basis of the lease. And so when there was no longer an active lease, even though that power company could have been operating up to 2018, 20, I don't know when that stopped. The taxable basis of that is tied to the lease, the lease being in effect. And so when there's no lease in effect, that should have been categorized by the assessor as town-owned tax exempt. And so we got an abatement request from the estate of that company that was assessed. And the assessor agreed that for the years we didn't have a lease in effect, that those should be abated, or they're not collectible. And so he abated which the assessor is allowed to abate the current year, but the municipal officers can go back 2 years. And so that's the request, is to go back the 2 years and abate. And there's a parcel that's not included in this, which is still owned privately, and is still taxable. So we're just talking about a town-owned property that was only ever taxed to somebody because they leased it. And once that lease went away, there was no taxable avenue for the town anymore. So.
okay. Any questions from the council regarding resolution 2653? Hearing none, and since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2653, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2653 passes. Moving on to resolution 2654, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council elect nominees for the Maine Municipal Association's Legislative Policy Committee.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2654.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I think this was on our last agenda, but Jack really wants to be on it now, so.
So I said, there's an empty writing seat. So this says vote for two, right? Does it say vote for two?
It did, yeah. I think so, yeah.
So I'm willing to be a write-in for that, because I've done that many years, and I think it's valuable, and I didn't wanna, compete with anybody else that wanted to be on the ballot, but I'm happy to be a write-in for the legislative policy committee. I mean, it's a Maine Municipal
Oh, yeah.
Association has this committee so that when there are bills that affect municipalities, they put it in front of this 100+ member committee, in front of MMA and ask us for, should MMA be for this? Should MMA be against this? What do you think? Is it gonna help your towns and hurt your town? It's that type of thing. And then based on what that committee says, MMA would go to the legislative hearing and speak for it or against it, or say, we don't have a position on it, but just be aware that this could, help some bigger communities, but hurt some of the smaller ones, and just provide their take on it, which I think is a good role for MMA to do.
Sounds like it could be helpful, and I think they're the most appropriate person. I didn't know if it was something you wanted to do or had time for or whatever, but I think it's helpful if you do.
I can make time for that. It's not a huge lift.
Okay.
They meet once a month when the legislature's in session, and not even always once a month. Sometimes they can do an email update and skip a meeting. So it's not a heavy lift, and I think it's valuable.
So always in person, or is it via?
Good question, because I think the last year I was an alternate, I think, and COVID was just starting, and we were doing Zoom, but I don't know if
Yeah.
they've made it a dual
Sure.
avenue now or not.
Okay,
When it's in person, where is it?
It's just in Augusta. It's at the MMA building
Gotcha.
by the Civic Center.
Okay.
all right. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, since do we have to? You just sort of put yourself in, do we have to nominate you? Or we just approve this as?
Amend the resolution to include me as a.
Right,
as
and
a
Jack
write-in
Lucas
candidate.
was the, right,
I make a motion to amend resolution 2654 to have Jack as the representative.
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor of resolution 2654 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2654 passes. We can go on to discussion items, real quick, and then,
Yeah, and let me just,
well, then go to discussion items now.
yeah, I'm just wanting to, just invite the person if, is there a? Is it public comment?
Yeah. Are there any public comments tonight? Hearing none. I will go to councilor comments. Pete?
Not much other than like to thank Amanda for her work done here, because it really helped the ordinance committee. So we didn't have to do
Yeah.
that, and it was very interesting in her presentation.
Yeah.
And also just wanted to mention, we all got a flyer dropped on our desk about the Pittsfield Community Festival. That's coming up.
Good.
From me.
Yes, excellent.
I was on it.
All set?
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks, Pete.
I've been,
Nate, you all set? You got it?
Just also want to thank Amanda, very thorough presentation, helped me understand, and she did a great job preparing and being able to answer our questions, so I really appreciate that very much, that's all.
Yep, and I will echo that, obviously, nothing I knew about, so, the food sovereignty thing that Amanda put together is great. Look forward to getting that implemented, hopefully. And, community festival, I know there's a lot of people excited about that, it looks like it's gonna be a great event, kind of the reminiscent of the egg festival and bringing that kind of back to back to life, so that's fantastic. I know the community and the kids and everybody likes that stuff, so it's gonna be good, and appreciate Amy and all the people that have worked hard to put that together, so. And I guess that is it for me on that, but I would like to ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss an economic development issue pursuant to Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, subsection 4056C, discussion of the acquisition of real property.
I will make a motion that we enter into executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of moving into executive session, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it.